it's Jenny, nurse extraordinaire back. We use that term loosely around here though. We're going to talk about zeroing. So let's first talk about anatomically where we zero in the brain. As we know, CVPs, art lines, they're at the right atrium. In the brain, you're actually going to be zeroing at the foramen Monroe. And that foramen Monroe, as we all remember from our anatomy class, is between the lateral ventricles and the third ventricle. So it's about right in here. So the rule of thumb here at TMC is that you're always going to do a zero at the level of the ear. So if you actually were to equate this out to the ear, it should be at the top of the ear. So zeroing at TMC, unless otherwise specified by your physician, is going to be top of the ear. That is the level of the foramen Monroe. So that is where you're leveling physiologically within the patient. So your patient's over here laying in bed. You're going to go ahead and let's say they're draining at 10 centimeters of water. What you do to zero is, first thing first, let's use two terms, leveling and zeroing. Number one, leveling is making sure the patient is level, top of the ear. If you do have an order for tragus, by the way, the tragus is actually that little dip in the ear here. So a couple of our surgeons like to say tragus, so you're going to use that level, but otherwise we use the top of the ear. So you want to make sure that this patient, bring your level all the way over to the patient, that is level dead center, that the bubble's in the middle. So once you are leveled at zero on this and zero top of the ear, you're ready to zero the patient. So you're going to level first, zero second. Next, you're going to go over to your ICP drain. What you want to do is make sure this is off to the patient. This is my drain to the patient. Off to patient, so the transducer is now open to theoretical air, which is at the top of the ureteral. So we're going to drop this down to zero. Red is well marked here, both on the ureteral and zero. Remember, you never, ever open a system, a ventriculostomy system, to zero. Do not touch these stopcocks. Your zero is the air filter at the top of the ureteral. So at this point, you're going to be, again, off to patient, double check yourself. Transducer is now open to air, which is our filter, and you're going to go ahead zero on the monitor. Once it goes to zero, you're going to go ahead and now return it back to the prescribed level. Standard is centimeters of water unless otherwise ordered by a physician, and then that's going to be millimeters of mercury. So just if it's not ordered otherwise, you're always going to use centimeters of water scale for the level of the drain. So 10, and then you can go ahead and turn it off to the drain. Now your patient is open to the transducer, and you can get your waveform. So your waveforms look like this. So real quick here, this is a normal waveform. This is a dampened waveform. We really want to see that stair step P1, P2, P3. So if you're dampened or it looks unusual, it might be one of the reasons why you would zero it. Otherwise, you always zero at the beginning of your shift and PRN as needed as you change the position of the patient. But every time you change the position, turn Q2, or they slid down the bed, you always want to level the patient and make sure that's still at zero. And one quick way to know what you're still at zero is you can drop your drain down. Of course, you're off to the patient. So let's say you've just turned your patient. You want to make sure you're still zeroed. You can just go to zero with this. If you're level to the patient, if your screen says zero, you don't need to formally zero it again. If it's off by one or more, you're going to want to hit that zero button again. But that's a quick check. But always return it back to your prescribed level, and then you can open a drain.